Happy April 2022. It's crazy that first quarter's already evaporated and we are well into spring here in Kansas. My name's Phillip Hayes. I'm with the Arnold Group, and we are happy to launch the release of our first quarter 2022 employment economic impact analysis for the Arnold Group. This is year 5, I believe, that we are in now that we've launched this. This actually was an initial response to the tightening of the labor market well before the pandemic, and certainly took on new meaning and new life as we entered the pandemic and navigated throughout the pandemic. We are truly excited to share some of the post-pandemic insights that we've gathered throughout first quarter of 2022 as the new year is taking shape. And so I'm going to kind of walk through the highlights, my perspective on this, a lot of the conversations that we're having with our business clients, business owners, potential businesses that reach out and are having difficulty navigating the current market landscape. For those of you that have followed the progressions throughout the years of the employment impact analysis, we will update the average salary summary data once a year, which is based on the publication of U.S. Department of Labor and the state of Kansas Department of Labor salary surveys, and that typically will drop between August and September in most years. The number of unemployed, the number of unemployment claimants will transition and display the current numbers at the timing of the current release of the impact analysis and number of Indeed openings. Certainly, you can see that the unemployment rate in the state of Kansas dropping to 2.5% is notably low. We went from historic lows pre-pandemic to historic highs the month of April in 2020. And here we are again, just about to set a new low water mark in the state. I will say that Kansas is tied for the 4th lowest unemployment rate in the nation currently. And nationally, we're sitting at 3.6. Just keep in mind that anything under 5% is considered full employment. A couple of takeaways from our observations regarding the great reevaluation from the economic recovery of the pandemic. We are seeing the fastest unemployment recovery out of a recession historically, and the slowest labor participation recovery in any recession since World War II. So these two factors are working certainly against each other and certainly making recruiting that much more difficult for employers. Another notable compounding effect is the acceleration of the number of retirees that exited the labor force by December of 2021. It was estimated based on the current trend lines to be a little under 50 million, and we ended up with 51.1 million that actually retired by December 2021. So that was over 1.5 million labor participants that are no longer actively engaged in the world of work. You can see 38% more job postings in February of 22 compared to February prior to the pandemic just 2 years ago. So 38% greater number of job openings and opportunities paired with 1.1% less people in the labor force, certainly putting large constraints on employers, not only in Kansas, but across the nation. We've been certainly tracking what employees are wanting as we're going through this great reevaluation. What is prioritized for job seekers today? If you kind of walk through our quarterly updates, you'll see kind of the progression and how that has morphed and changed over the last couple of years. But certainly schedule flexibility, hybrid schedules, growth opportunities, advancement, training. Work-life balance is listed here. Something I've heard recently is it's more than just work-life balance. It's work-life intersection and how we can really make those two components of our life work in harmony with the different demands and challenges that we face on a daily and constant basis. So you can see some of the industries that were the hardest hits. Accommodation and food service has the highest wage growth currently because they're ultimately trying to fill the largest deficit, the largest hole as they recover and try to come out of the pandemic. You know, it's interesting to me that job seekers will essentially leave a job with nothing lined up. 1 in 4 employees, so 25% of the labor force that left their job in 2021 did so without having a job lined up. And ultimately, that's a pretty telling sign that employees are looking for kind of a different construct, a different makeup from their work-life balance intersection. What this is telling me is there's a fair amount of employees that are looking for something different in their workplace environment. And it doesn't always come down to money. We've certainly got some additional insights with that as well. But when you hear about the record number of Americans that are quitting their jobs, trying to translate that and how that impacts Kansas, to put that in some perspective, in January of 2021, 31,000 Kansans walked away from their job. A year later, just a few months back, January of 22, we're up to 36,000. Kansas is at 2.5% compared to nationally at 2.9% over this time period that we looked at. I will tell you the high water mark in November, Kansas was substantially higher than the national rate. And that trend has not slowed down based on some of the most recent data that we've seen. Through the first quarter, Kansas has added a little over 16,000 new jobs. Nationally, we're over 1.5 million. And really I think this graphic from the Federal Reserve's economic data illustrates kind of the tightening of the market in 2015-16 when the number of new hires started being outpaced by the number of job openings. And so we felt that constriction prior to the pandemic coming on. Definitely felt that gap widening at the onset of the pandemic. We got some slight reprieve, obviously, as the shutdowns and so forth happened. But now that we are out of the woods and past the pandemic and trying to establish a new normal, you can see the extremely explosive widening gap that we're seeing with the number of job openings compared to the number of new hires. So certainly a challenging time for employers that are looking for qualified talent, that are trying to increase headcount so they can continue to chase production numbers and so forth. But the Arnold Group, we're certainly here to help our staffing and recruiting business. It seems like we have more demands today than we've ever had. And we are certainly in the fight with our clients to find that right talent and to fill those open positions for them as well. So with that, certainly reach out with questions if you have additional questions, or if you'd like to find out how the Arnold Group might be able to assist you in tackling some of your employment challenges.